Okay, so this set of videos is going to talk about the main differences between the two key schools of thought that we need to look at A-levels. On the one hand, we've got the Keynesians or Keynesian economists, and on the other hand, we have the classical, or if you prefer, neoclassical economists. The further you go on in economics, the more you'll find that there are a huge number of subdivisions and different types of flavour of different groups of economists, eclectic Keynesians and rational expectations, neoclassical economists, and so on and so forth. But really, it boils down to these two key divides. And the divide really centres around the extent to which we do or don't want governments heavily involved in trying to manage the economy. Neoclassical economists, or classical economists, by and large, they tend to be essentially pretty free market. And by that, I mean that they would prefer the government not to be involved in steering or controlling the economy. Sometimes, you might view it as the difference between kind of self-driving, versus manual cars. Neoclassical economists want to set up the conditions through which the car will drive itself and then step back and allow the economy to work. Whereas Keynesian economists think that that's often not going to work, and therefore they would prefer to take more direct control. So the key, so essentially, when you're looking at the difference, neoclassical economists prefer to leave markets, to get on with it. Keynesians say markets don't always work in the way that we would hope, and therefore governments need to control them. And the key part of this debate comes where the economy as a whole, and the macroeconomy, moves out of equilibrium. Or it's stuck away from a desirable outcome. So most often we look at what's happening in a recession. Neoclassical economists, their main point of view is that under the right circumstances, an economy can self-stabilize. So what they're saying is, if the circumstances are right, under the right circumstances, and we'll talk about what those are later, economies can self-stabilize. And what that means is they can return to a high level of employment and GDP without any need for active government intervention. Keynesians say that these circumstances are unlikely to be true in reality, and some Keynesians say even if they are true, it still won't work, and therefore if an economy is in a situation where it's doing quite badly, unemployment's high and so on, then the government should directly intervene to try to do something about that. And essentially that's the key difference between these two. And what we're going to do, kind of over the next few videos, is to explore, kind of what are these circumstances and assumptions, to what extent are they likely to be true, and what therefore is it, that each of these groups of economists recommend should be done in different situations.